Unpopular opinion, but
Unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion. Unpopular opinion.
You're listening to Unpopular Opinion, a podcast for professionals from all walks of life who want to hear success stories from innovators who've won by taking the path less traveled. In each episode, recovering journalist and content marketer Ashley Amber Saba interviews individuals who have prospered thanks to their genuinely unpopular opinions, despite warnings from naysayers, threats to their careers, and colossal obstacles. All rebels are welcome.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unpopular Opinion. I'm your host, Ashley Saba, and this episode is brought to you by my friends at Audience Ops. Audience Ops is a done-for-you, content-led growth agency that offers content strategy, case studies, blog posts, and full-service podcast production for professionals looking to launch a podcast like this one. Today, our guest is Sims Tillirson, Head of Sales at Perk Showcase. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Ashley. Super stoked to be here.
I've been a longtime follower of him and his content. If you're not already following, you should definitely get on LinkedIn and do that. I love how human you are on there.
I appreciate it. It's I try to really be real AF, as I call it, on the platform, and I think it's worked out pretty well for me.
You've definitely built quite a big following doing that. You're over 10,000 now.
Yeah, thank God. It felt like it took me forever to get there. I feel kind of validated that I've spent so much time creating content now that I've crossed that metric that no one cares about but me.
Well, just to get things kicked off, you have a unique stance on pursuing opportunities that you are quote unquote unqualified for. Can you kind of fill me in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, I was taught kind of from an early age that you work hard, you do a good job, and you'll be rewarded and promoted. And that could certainly be true at some companies. I don't think it's true at many. And the route that I've kind of taken in my career is that when I see a new opportunity I want to go after, if I can kind of do, 30-40% of the job duties required, and I think I can learn the rest, I go for it. And it hasn't come without its struggles, but I think it's served me really well, and has allowed me to learn a lot in, just the first 10 years of my career.
So can you kind of catch me up and catch the audience up on your background and how that might tie in with that unpopular take that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated from Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina, and had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went and ran a grain elevator in rural South Carolina for a little while, and it was all truly terrible. But I'd grown up doing agricultural work, so it was kind of what I knew. Had the opportunity to take a really entry-level role with Colonial Life and Unum Group in Columbia, doing billing in the back office, but it was air conditioning and only 40 hours a week instead of 80. So I took it. And really all the positions I held thereafter at Colonial Life were promotions, but they were promotions I was not qualified for on paper. So, I networked a lot behind the scenes and then just said, screw it. We're going to go after this and we're going to figure it out while we do. And like I said earlier, I have failed at points during this journey, but I think it really has served me well. And since the time that I spent at Unum Group and Colonial Life, I've bounced around a variety of startups in various leadership positions. And my first head of sales position in this space, I got fired from. So again, there are going to be negative things that happen, but I'm still really pleased with the way that I've gone about my career, because I think if I had waited until I was ready for the next job, I'd probably still be a risk manager at Colonial Life like I was back in 2017.
What do you think it is about you that gives employers the confidence to take a chance on you for positions that you might not check all of the boxes off on?
Yeah, I think it's probably my confidence in myself that I exude this kind of confidence that I can do the job. And so they're like, okay, And then also some of the soft skills I have, and that I love people, and that I have a history of really putting my head down and grinding when I need to.
Then I guess that kind of ties into my next question. Like, do you think it's a thing in your DNA or in your personality that kind of allows you to kind of go for it then?
Not really. I think anybody can do this. I think that you just have to get past the idea that I'm terrified I'm going to fail, because eventually you will. Um, and one of my biggest fears was getting fired, and it was scary. I had a 2-week-old son at the time, and my wife didn't have a job, so terrifying.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, I'm like, wow, that was my greatest fear, and that, like, I'm still alive. My family's healthy. Like, we're all okay. It wasn't that big of a deal.
In between that happening and you finding another opportunity, what did that look like?
Um, well, you know this because you're a mom, but I wasn't sleeping a whole lot. My wife wasn't sleeping a whole lot. We were doing the whole zombie parent thing, and while Jack would nap, I was networking and taking interviews, and thank God for LinkedIn, because once I told people I was on the market, the conversations I had were kind of endless, and I started having to decline to have conversations. But I tried to be as picky as I could about my next landing spot. But yeah, it was scary. We got in some credit card debt over that time, but we'll get out of it.
Definitely. I mean, you kind of have to keep going. And when you don't have another
Yeah,
option, what do? I feel like it's a good opportunity to teach you a lot about what you can do when everything is kind of feeling like it's against you too.
yeah, absolutely. And I was in a privileged position for that to be my greatest fear, and I still had a nice house to sit in and live in, and we had savings to lean on to pay our mortgage, and credit cards to lean on to pay for everything else.
Yeah, they're the good and the bad, the evil of the credit card.
Yeah, we're on the bad side right now.
You'll climb out of it though,
Oh
definitely.
yeah. Oh yeah.
What do you think are the main advantages of kind of going after the opportunities that you might not feel quite qualified for when it comes to like your professional growth?
So I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest advantage is that I learn so much when I stretch myself. Because I think, you know, a lot of people, myself included, can lean toward what's comfortable and say, I've been a project manager for 10 years, and there's this senior project manager role open where I have a little additional responsibility. I'm going to take it. And that's great for some people. But it's probably really comfortable, probably doesn't stretch you very much, and you probably don't learn very much. And for me, these big roles that I come into pseudo unqualified for, I come in not with a chip on my shoulder, but with a confidence that I'm going to get it done, but an understanding that I've got to ask for help. I've got to learn a lot to do it. So I think my biggest periods of professional growth have been when I've stretched. So like I'm 7 months into my stint at Perks, and I feel like I've been here for 5 years because of how much I've accomplished and because of how much I've learned. And I think our CEO, Alexa, probably wouldn't agree that I was unqualified for the job, but I feel like I was. And I feel like I've had to stretch myself a lot.
Have you had any mentors in any of the jobs that you've had that have helped you kind of figure out what it would take to get to the next level in the opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. And they were primarily in my stint at Colonial Life. I had a variety of formal mentors who were all AVP or VP level at this, Fortune 250 company, and they really taught me a lot about playing the game, and taught me also a lot about seeing things in a strategic light rather than just a tactical light, because I was so encompassed in my tiny little job that I didn't always see the forest for the trees. And that's what mentorship has really helped me do. And they've also taught me that, you can try things and fail at them or not like them, and then you can do something else. And there's no harm in that, especially early in your career.
Definitely. I mean, that's kind of the time to do a lot of that. And I do feel like going back to what you mentioned, being in a startup generally, whether or not you feel like you're totally qualified to be there, expedites the time and that you feel like you've been in a job. I've been at a lot of startups and I feel like 1 year is like 5 in them.
It is.
It's kind of
And
kind of crazy.
it is. And you do, I'm sure you've had this experience. You get tasked with doing things that you've never done before just because there isn't anyone else there to do it.
You have to have all of the hats on. Yeah.
That's right.
Eventually, like if the company does good, they'll be able to kind of build up a big team with a lot of different duties. But I think a lot of the times you might be one of the only people in a department and you have to kind of create a lot of what's to come before you have people to do it, which is definitely
Right.
challenging.
Challenging, but so cool. Like, I've learned more about marketing in this role than I ever have because we don't really, we have marketing partners who help us, but I'm driving a lot of that. So I've had to learn a lot and test a lot.
On taking in opportunities that you're not qualified for and it being the right move, have you had any backlash on that? Anybody kind of fight with you on the statement there?
Yeah, I think that the older way of thinking is that you should wait your turn. And I've certainly had peers who were older than me, and managers in a variety of companies who have chastised me for not staying in roles long enough and making a move, and then for not being satisfied, maybe is the best way to put it. So I've certainly faced backlash in a variety of companies. I think I've found my fit in the startup world though, because nobody really cares about how long you've been doing something in the startup world. They just care if you can get results, and I definitely prefer that.
Oh, you'll probably hang out in those kind of opportunities a little bit more than an established company that's been around for a long time that might have a lot of processes already there for that.
Yeah, it would be really hard for me to go back into that world. Now, with that said, the majority of my career was spent in the Fortune space with a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy, and they taught me probably everything I know about the employee benefits industry and gave me a great baseline, but they also taught me about the types of environments I don't want to work in anymore.
Kind of going back to that, I know you mentioned that you want to bring up hustle culture, and I would love to hear a little bit more about your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I see it on LinkedIn all the time, but people really arguing about hustle culture, and the dichotomy is that you either hustle or you're lazy. And I just don't believe that at all. And I learned the hard way through 1 case of clinical burnout. And my therapist strongly twisted my arm until I quit a job because it was like sucking all the energy out of me, and I was likely going to have to be institutionalized. So I kind of follow a different path, if you will. I'm really focused on not work-life balance, but on integrating my work in my life, if you will. So I have hard rules around, I don't spend more than 40 hours at my computer and at my desk a week. I may take calls outside of it, but I block time to hang out with my kid and my wife and to be outside and to play video games and to play music. And I actually put together a little ebook called F the Hustle. I don't know if I can say that word on here.
Yeah, you can.
All right, it's called Fuck the Hustle. And it's really all about everything I've learned through trying to fit into this hustle culture, and then finding this kind of happy medium where I can still produce at a high level as a salesperson, but I don't have to sacrifice my mental health and my family. So I think that there is some middle ground that we can find between this dichotomy of you either hustle or you're just lazy. And I hope that more people will find that, especially in sales.
Where can people go if they want to find that ebook?
So I have a Gumroad site. It's just simstillirson.gumroad.com, and you can access that directly from my LinkedIn page.
Thank you very much. When you've kind of laid out how to time block and make sure that you're going outdoors and hanging out with your family and all of that, did you get that from anybody, or is it just you and your trial and error? Like, how did you find a way to make that all kind of flow? I have a difficult time doing that, which is
Yeah. So I looked at things that other successful people were doing. So Steve Noodleberg and his sons are kind of great sales thought leaders and coaches. I looked at some of the things they did. They preach hard calendaring, and then I kind of molded it and made it my own. I'm much less strict, but I just try to make sure to get certain things done every day, and I don't really care what time of the day I get them done. But it helps me stay on task because I can be quick to see the shiny object or see the LinkedIn notification and deviate from what I'm doing. So it really is, I try to do prospect touches for an hour every morning before meetings start, do an hour in LinkedIn to, respond to comments, create content. And then I'm usually in meetings from about 10 to about 3 or 4. And after those meetings end, I always try to find time for admin work. I don't always get to that. Sometimes there are more meetings. And then sometime in the middle of the day, even if it's for 10 minutes, I'm going to get my dog and we're going to go outside and just spend a little time outside. And then outside of that, there are other things I have to get done, right? Like I like to work out for an hour every day. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's at night. I got to spend time with my kid, always in the morning, always at night, sometimes in the middle of the day as well. So there's some fluidity to it. There are just a handful of like non-negotiable things I have to accomplish every day that are always built into my calendar.
And how long have you had that going for you now?
Probably about 2 years.
Wow.
And it's ever evolving. So, part of startup life is you got to be willing to fail fast, right? And so that's how I approach this calendaring too. If it stops serving me or stops serving my family, we switch it up, see what works.
Cool. I like that. Let's get a little tactical back on the other point about taking opportunities that you might not feel completely qualified for. What kind of advice would you give to like-minded people out there who maybe have things that they want to do out there, but they're a little bit afraid that they're not going to be given that kind of a chance? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah, so I'd say you're definitely not going to be given that type of chance. You got to take it. So that's the first piece, is you got to know that you've got to go take it, and you've got to go prove to people who might look at you and say, you're not qualified, that there's a reason you belong in the role. So the things I focus on doing are developing storylines around some of my non-traditional experience, things I learned doing farm work, things I've learned as a musician that I didn't experience in an office setting that I can apply. And then I use a lot of my sales skills to network behind the scenes. So figuring out who the hiring manager is, figuring out who peers would be in the role, and building relationships with them, learning what's important to them, and then using all of that to develop a big story about how you strategically drive this role, not just how you solve the little day-to-day things that'll be asked of you in the role.
Can you give an example of your musical background and how you might be able to use that as a tool in that kind of opportunity?
Yeah, so I mean, I can give you an example right now. I'm moderating a panel discussion for a New England Employee Benefits Council event in January. I've never moderated one of these discussions before, but we peeled back to the fact that I have played in front of a crowd of 1,000 people and I have stage presence, and I know I can guide a show, right? So that was how I landed that little gig.
Oh, yeah, you could definitely fit that into a lot of things. And I didn't know about your farming either. Like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Taught me the value of hard work, and I certainly enjoyed that type of work. If it paid as well as sales, I'd probably do that.
I think a lot of people, if we didn't have the internet and we didn't have the kind of opportunities we have now, we would be doing other things too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like for me, the internet kind of killed journalism. Not
Yeah.
totally, but money-wise and a lot of other factors played into why I left. And I think that if big tech and the internet hadn't come about, that I probably would be doing that now. I would have continued it. And I think I've talked to a lot of people who have told me that they would be in agriculture if we didn't have what we have going on now. I think we'd all be on a little bit of a different path.
I think
That's just
so
my
too.
opinion on that. Can you debunk an unpopular opinion that is not really an unpopular opinion that you found in your feed on LinkedIn or anywhere?
Unpopular opinion that's not really an unpopular opinion. I mean, I don't know that I have a specific one, but I think you and I have talked about before that really anything you see on LinkedIn nowadays that says unpopular opinion alert or whatever is just clickbait to get you to read something and agree with it. But I don't really think that I have one, and I know it's supposed to, so I'm sorry.
No, it's like totally okay. But I kind of follow with you on that, though. I think that usually people are not actually looking for people to disagree with them anyway. They just want the confirmation and bias of like, oh, I'm going to call that unpopular opinion. And then people are going to go, oh, wait, but I think that too. They're not actually looking to like rock the boat or anything like that. They're just looking for more people to click.
Yeah, I think you're right. I will tell you one that I learned. It's not business related at all. I hate candy corn. I thought everybody hated candy corn, but I think I'm in the minority. And I saw a lot of posts around Halloween that were like, unpopular opinion, candy corn is delicious. And all these people are like, yes, I love candy corn. And I was like, what the hell? Candy corn is so gross.
I do hate it too. My unpopular food take is definitely I hate potatoes. I think I might be the only one I've ever met.
Let's unpack that.
I'm the only one. All of them, yeah. I don't like any of them. None. No kind, in no form. I don't like them. And people don't feel comfortable with that. Like I have got a lot of backlash on that. I
don't feel comfortable with that.
My mission in life, and maybe I'll be able to accomplish this through the podcast, is to find one other individual who is like me, like that. Just, I haven't found one, not one. I've had people who have told me they don't like mashed potatoes or whatever,
right.
But I don't like none, no kind. And I haven't found one individual in the universe who could tell me that. I'm the only one. What happened?
You're the first person I've ever met that's ever said that to me.
I feel like that's a common comeback to when I tell people that. They're like, no, that can't be. Like, you're the only one out there. And I might be. I mean, I haven't found anybody.
What if you are?
I don't know. What do you think is the matter with me?
I don't know. I'm kind of jealous of you though, because I'm thinking about like, if I hated potatoes, I'd probably be a lot healthier.
That's what people tell me. They're like, you're skinny because you don't like potatoes.
That's probably not the whole story, but I
think might be.
Every way I eat potatoes is like super unhealthy though.
I think it's, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there might be a healthy way to have them. I don't know.
Maybe I'm not interested in knowing what it is.
Yeah, no, definitely. And people ask me, like, they're like, oh, do you ban your kid from having them? I'm like, no.
Does your kid like potatoes?
Yeah. I kind of wish she didn't, not to be mean or anything, just because I wanted to have another friend in that. But no,
Yeah.
she's totally on board with them.
You should just put that in your LinkedIn headline that you hate all potatoes. I bet you'll find somebody.
I think that I will lose 5,000 followers immediately. Oh God.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, well, I could check it. I do have Shield, which plug on Shield. I love them, but they'll occasionally, when I do talk about anything like a little bit controversial, I can go back on there and I could kind of link like, oh wow, why did I lose like 50 followers that day? And if I did it if I did a potato take, it might be a lot more than.
I want to
a
see
lot
what
more than that.
happens.
Yeah. Hey,
I want to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking I might have to do that now. Well, thank you for having taking the time to be on the show today. If anybody wants to follow you or kind of find out what you're up to, where should they go?
Yeah, the easiest place to find me, because I'm there way too much, is definitely LinkedIn, and I'm just Sims Tillirson on LinkedIn. There's only one of us.
It's good. You have an uncommon name.
Yeah, super easy to find.
I kind of want to dig at your name a little bit now too.
Yeah.
Do you have a backstory on your name? I don't think I know anybody with your first name at all.
Yeah, so my full name is Garland Sims Tillirson, and Garland is Garlon, so not like the Christmas garland, but I'm named after my great grandfather George Garland on my dad's side, and then Sims is my grandmother's maiden name. So really classic Southern naming convention there. And then Tillirson is Scandinavian, son of a tiller, so son of a farmer.
Very cool. And that's kind of popular or good with your take on the farming and everything. We kind of came full circle with your name now.
There
I love it.
We got it locked in.
Well, thank you for being on the show today. And I hope that everybody goes and follows you after. If they're not already, they should be. And I hope that I can have you on the show again one day.
Awesome. Would love to join again. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Unpopular Opinion. This episode was produced by Audience Ops, a content-led growth agency. If you're looking for help launching a podcast, Audience Ops handles all the legwork, so you can focus on providing the subject matter expertise. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow Ashley's show on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube.